The Stoic Game. Mastering relationships through psychological power and emotional control. In the intricate dance of relationships, many find themselves stumbling, lost in a maze of unspoken rules and perplexing behaviors. The conventional wisdom often paints a picture of romance built on unwavering affection, constant communication, and complete emotional transparency. However, a closer examination reveals a more nuanced reality, one where psychological dynamics and emotional intelligence play pivotal roles. This essay delves into the often unacknowledged truths of relationships, not to promote manipulation or deceit, but to empower individuals with the knowledge and understanding necessary to navigate these complex interactions with confidence and control. Drawing inspiration from the ancient philosophy of Stoicism, we will explore how mastering one's emotions, understanding the undercurrents of human psychology, and employing strategic communication can lead to stronger, more fulfilling connections. This journey is not for the faint of heart, nor for those content with remaining passive observers in their own lives. It is for those who are ready to step up, learn the rules of the game, and rewrite them in their favor, not by exploiting others, but by cultivating inner strength and unwavering self-possession. Forget the sugar-coated platitudes and the well-worn advice that leaves you feeling powerless. Prepare to confront the raw, unapologetic truth about how relationships truly function and how you can take control, not through coercion, but through mastery of your own emotions and a keen understanding of human nature. This is about more than just getting what you want. It's about becoming the kind of person who commands respect, inspires desire, and builds lasting connections based on authenticity and strength. Welcome to the Stoic Game, where the rules are different, the stakes are high, and the rewards are immeasurable. The journey begins now. This exploration isn't intended to advocate for manipulative tactics or endorse a cynical view of relationships. Instead, it's a deep dive into understanding the underlying psychological forces at play, empowering individuals to navigate these complexities with awareness and self-assuredness. By grounding our approach in Stoic principles, we can learn to cultivate inner resilience, make rational decisions, and act with integrity, even when confronted with challenging emotional dynamics. The core idea isn't about dominating or controlling others, but about achieving self-mastery and navigating relationships from a place of strength and clarity. In many ways, the commonly held notions of relationships create power imbalances that leave people in a vulnerable position. These norms create an environment where people are told to express their feelings and expose themselves fully in the name of creating intimacy and stronger bonds. However, this level of vulnerability can easily be exploited by people looking to take advantage, thereby making them feel lost, confused, and powerless. By learning how the game is played, you become a better player in the game. This is not for those who want to play it safe, but rather it is for those who are tired of feeling overlooked and want to finally feel confident and in control. This is where Stoicism comes in to help master your emotions and stay steady no matter the chaos. If you want to influence a woman's mind, you need to forget about logic. Women respond to emotions, and that is what you need to focus on. They'll act upset, play the guilt card, or pretend to be hurt to shift the power. They do this to have emotional control. Chapter 1. The Myth of Logic. Triggering emotional responses and mastering the landscape of feelings. The bedrock of effective communication, particularly in the realm of relationships, often rests on the assumption that logical reasoning and well-articulated arguments will pave the way for understanding and resolution. We meticulously construct our cases, presenting facts, evidence, and rational explanations, only to find ourselves met with resistance, misunderstanding, or even escalation. This disconnect stems from a fundamental difference in how men and women process information and respond to stimuli. While men tend to prioritize logic and reason, women are often more attuned to the emotional undercurrents of situation, making decisions and forming opinions based on their feelings and intuitions. This is not to suggest that women are incapable of logical thought, but rather that their emotional responses often serve as the primary filter through which they interpret and react to the world around them. It's a critical distinction that, when understood and respected, can unlock a new level of influence and connection. If you want to influence a woman's mind, forget about logic. Seriously, throw it out the window. Facts, reason, or well-thought-out arguments, they're not going to get you anywhere. Why? Because women don't process logic the same way men do. What actually drives them are emotions. And if you want to take charge, that's what you need to focus on. Think back to those moments of heated argument, where you meticulously laid out your reasoning, presenting a clear and concise case, only to be met with tears, accusations, or complete dismissal. The frustration arises from the fact that you were speaking a different language, appealing to a faculty that was not fully engaged. To truly connect with and influence a woman, you must learn to speak the language of emotion, to tap into her feelings, and to create experiences that resonate with her on a deeper, more visceral level. This is where the concept of emotional triggers comes into play. Emotional triggers are specific stimuli, whether words, actions, or situations, that evoke a strong emotional response in an individual. By understanding and strategically employing these triggers, you can create a powerful connection, elicit desired behaviors, and ultimately shape the dynamic of the relationship. Women are wired to respond to emotions, not logic, and here's the kicker: they've probably been using this against you without you even realizing it. They'll act upset, play the guilt card, or pretend to be hurt to shift the power in their favor. Ever found yourself confused after an argument, wondering how it escalated so quickly, or why you feel like the bad guy that's emotional control at work? But don't worry, it's not your fault, it's how the game is played. The good news: you can flip the script. The key is to trigger her emotions first, keep her guessing, keep her on edge, and watch how the dynamic changes. Mastering this skill, however, requires a delicate balance and a deep understanding of the ethical considerations involved. The goal is not to manipulate or exploit, but to connect on a genuine level, fostering a sense of excitement, intrigue, and emotional connection. When approached with integrity and respect, the strategic use of emotional triggers can create a dynamic of mutual attraction and engagement. To further elaborate on the concept of emotional triggers, it's essential to understand that these triggers are not universal. What elicits a strong emotional response in one woman may have little to no effect on another. Factors such as personality, past experiences, values, and beliefs all play a significant role in shaping an individual's emotional landscape. Therefore, the key to effectively using emotional triggers lies in careful observation, active listening, and a genuine desire to understand the other person on a deeper level. Start by paying attention to her reactions in different situations. What makes her laugh? What makes her angry? What seems to inspire her or make her feel insecure? These observations will provide valuable clues about her emotional vulnerabilities and her deepest desires. Ask open-ended questions that encourage her to share her thoughts and feelings. Listen attentively, not just to the words she says, but also to the tone of her voice, her body language, and the emotions that lie beneath the surface. By demonstrating genuine empathy and a willingness to understand her perspective, you create a safe space for her to open up and reveal her true self. Once you have a better understanding of her emotional landscape, you can begin to strategically employ emotional triggers to create a desired effect. For example, if you know that she values ambition and success, you might share stories about your own accomplishments or talk about your goals and aspirations in a way that inspires her and makes her feel excited about the future. If you know that she's insecure about her appearance, you might offer genuine compliments that focus on her unique qualities and strengths, rather than generic praise about her physical attractiveness. Remember, the goal is not to deceive or manipulate, but to connect on a genuine level, fostering a sense of trust, respect, and mutual admiration. By understanding and respecting her emotional boundaries, you create a dynamic of mutual attraction and engagement that can lead to a deeper, more fulfilling connection. This also means that the man has to learn to be unpredictable in order to create attraction. Emotions are addictive, and creating highs and lows for a woman is a great way to keep her hooked. An example of this is giving her attention and making her feel special, then pulling back and acting distant. Chapter 2. The Stoic Response. Maintaining inner equilibrium amidst emotional storms. While the ability to trigger emotional responses can be a powerful tool in shaping the dynamics of a relationship, it is equally important to cultivate a sense of inner equilibrium and emotional resilience. The Stoic philosophy, with its emphasis on self-control, reason, and virtue, provides a valuable framework for navigating the often turbulent waters of human interaction. Here, the Stoic mindset, the Stoics understood that our emotions can be our greatest strength or our biggest weakness. They taught us to stay in control of our inner world, no matter what happens outside of us. So while women might be playing the emotional game, you're not going to lose yourself in the chaos. You're going to stay calm, composed, and strategic, just like a Stoic would imagine. It's just like the Stoics, you don't let the emotional storms around you throw you off course. You recognize emotions for what they are, temporary waves, and choose how you respond. You're in control of your own feelings, which means you can better influence the situation without getting caught up in it. You learn to respond, not react. That's what gives you the power. The Stoics believed that true happiness and fulfillment could only be achieved by mastering one's emotions and living in accordance with reason. They argued that external events, such as the actions and opinions of others, are ultimately beyond our control, and that our focus should instead be on cultivating inner virtue and maintaining a sense of emotional detachment. In the context of relationships, this means learning to recognize and manage your own emotional responses rather than being swept away by the emotions of others. It means cultivating a sense of self-sufficiency and independence so that your happiness and well-being are not contingent on the approval or validation of another person. It also means approaching conflicts and disagreements with a calm and rational mindset, seeking to understand the other person's perspective, rather than reacting impulsively or defensively. By embracing the Stoic principles of self-control, reason, and virtue, you can navigate the emotional complexities of relationships with greater clarity, resilience, and inner peace. Rather than trying to control others, focus on controlling yourself. The Stoic philosophers believed that emotions, while a natural part of the human experience, could also be a source of great suffering if not properly managed. They advocated for the cultivation of apathy, not in the sense of indifference or apathy, but rather in the sense of freedom from emotional disturbance. This meant learning to recognize and accept emotions without allowing them to dictate one's thoughts, actions, or overall sense of well-being. In practice, this involves developing a heightened awareness of your own emotional triggers and learning to respond to them in a rational and controlled manner. When confronted with a challenging situation or a difficult person, take a moment to pause and reflect before reacting. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling this way? Is this emotion serving me, or is it hindering my ability to think clearly and act rationally? By identifying and understanding your emotions, you can begin to detach yourself from them, creating a space for reason and logic to prevail. This does not mean suppressing or denying your emotions, but rather acknowledging them without judgment and choosing how to respond in a way that aligns with your values and goals. For example, if you find yourself feeling angry or resentful towards your partner, you might choose to express your feelings in a calm and assertive manner, rather than lashing out in anger or resorting to passive-aggressive behavior. By taking responsibility for your own emotions and responding with intention, you can create a more harmonious and productive dynamic in the relationship. This creates stability and strength and makes it so that others cannot ignore you. Chapter 3. Tapping into deepest fears, the ethical considerations of vulnerability and control. Delving deeper into the intricacies of human psychology, we encounter the powerful influence of fear. Fear, a primal emotion designed to protect us from harm, can also be a potent motivator, shaping our behaviors, influencing our decisions, and driving our desires. Understanding and acknowledging the role of fear in relationships is crucial for navigating the complexities of human connection, but it also raises important ethical considerations that must be carefully addressed. If you want to truly stay in control, you need to understand and use your fears. Yeah, it sounds harsh, but the reality is this fear is one of the most powerful motivators. And guess what? Women have fears, just like everyone else: fear of being abandoned, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. These aren't just random insecurities, they're real vulnerabilities. And when you know how to tap into them, you gain the upper hand. Women, like all human beings, harbor a range of fears, some conscious and others deeply buried in the subconscious. These fears can stem from past experiences, societal pressures, or innate insecurities. Common fears include the fear of abandonment, the fear of rejection, the fear of not being good enough, the fear of losing control, and the fear of being alone. When these fears are triggered, they can manifest in a variety of ways, such as clinginess, jealousy, insecurity, or even withdrawal. By understanding a woman's deepest fears, you can gain valuable insight into her behaviors, her motivations, and her emotional vulnerabilities. However, it is crucial to emphasize that this knowledge should never be used to exploit, manipulate, or intentionally cause harm. The ethical use of this knowledge lies in fostering a sense of security, trust, and emotional safety within the relationship. By understanding her fears, you can proactively address them, offering reassurance, support, and understanding. You can create an environment where she feels safe to be vulnerable, to express her emotions, and a trust that you will be there for her, even when she is feeling insecure or afraid. Women's fears run deeper than they let on. Once you figure out what she's afraid of, you can use that knowledge to keep her emotionally and mentally hooked. Let me give you an example. Think about the character Christian Grey in 50 Shades of Grey. Why does Anastasia stay so obsessed with him? Sure, he's rich and attractive, but that's not the full story. What really keeps her coming back is the way he plays with her fear of abandonment. One moment he's pulling her and making her feel special, the next he's distant, leaving her unsure of where she stands, at constant uncertainty, wondering if she's good enough, fearing she might lose him, keeps her emotionally attached. It's not just love or attraction, it's the emotional roller coaster he creates that makes her cling to him even more. This approach requires a high degree of emotional intelligence, empathy, and integrity. It is not about exploiting vulnerabilities for personal gain, but about creating a deeper, more meaningful connection based on mutual understanding and respect. The key is to use this knowledge to foster a sense of security and trust. Understandably, some people are afraid to talk about this topic because it feels too intense. But it is important to understand what drives her behavior. The goal is not to go out and terrorize people, but to know what makes people tick. To illustrate this point, let's consider the fear of abandonment. Many women harbor a deep-seated fear of being left alone, whether due to past experiences of loss or rejection, or simply due to the innate human desire for connection and belonging. When this fear is triggered, it can manifest in a variety of ways, such as excessive clinginess, jealousy, or a constant need for reassurance. A man who understands this fear can respond in a way that alleviates her anxiety and fosters a sense of security. He might offer frequent words of affirmation, expressing his love and commitment to the relationship. He might make an effort to spend quality time with her, demonstrating that she is a priority in his life. He might be patient and understanding when she is feeling insecure, offering a listening ear and a shoulder to cry on. By consistently demonstrating his presence and support, he can gradually alleviate her fear of abandonment and create a stronger, more secure bond between them. However, it is equally important to avoid behaviors that might inadvertently trigger this fear. For example, being consistently late for dates, being emotionally distant, or flirting with other women could all exacerbate her anxiety and undermine the trust in the relationship. It is essential to be mindful of your actions and words, ensuring that they consistently convey a message of love, commitment, and unwavering support. It is also important to note that addressing a woman's fears is not about fixing her or trying to change her personality. It is about accepting her for who she is, with all her vulnerabilities and insecurities, and offering her the space and support she needs to heal and grow. By creating a safe and nurturing environment, you can empower her to overcome her fears and embrace her full potential. Chapter 4: Stoic Acceptance: Transforming Fear into a Catalyst for Growth. The Stoic philosophers, known for their emphasis on reason, virtue, and self-control, offer a unique perspective on the role of fear in human life. They recognize that fear is a natural emotion designed to protect us from harm, but they also cautioned against allowing fear to dictate our thoughts, actions, and overall sense of well-being. For the Stoics, the key to overcoming fear lies not in avoiding it altogether, but in confronting it with courage, wisdom, and a clear understanding of its true nature. The Stoics understood that our emotions, especially fear, can be either a tool for growth or a trap. They recognize that while fear is a natural reaction, we don't have to let it control us. Instead, we can confront it with wisdom and reason, mastering our own emotions before we try to influence others in relationships. The Stoic approach gives you an edge. While you're aware of your fears, you don't get swept up in the emotional chaos. You stay centered, clear, and strategic, knowing that the emotional triggers you use are tools, not weaknesses. By applying the Stoic principle of apathy, freedom from emotional disturbance, you can act with control, not out of fear or desperation. This creates a sense of security and strength that others can't ignore. So while fear might be a powerful motivator, it's your response to it that makes all the difference. Use it wisely and with Stoic control, and you'll keep the power in your hands. They believe that many of the things we fear, such as rejection, failure, or loss, are ultimately beyond our control, and that our focus should instead be on cultivating inner virtue and maintaining a sense of emotional detachment. This does not mean that we should be indifferent to the suffering of others, but rather that we should strive to remain calm, rational, and objective, even in the face of adversity. In the context of relationships, this Stoic approach can be particularly valuable. By understanding and accepting our own fears, as well as the fears of our partners, we can create a more supportive and understanding dynamic. We can learn to respond to each other with compassion and empathy, rather than reacting defensively or impulsively. We can also learn to challenge our own irrational fears and to encourage our partners to do the same. For example, if you are afraid of rejection, you might challenge this fear by putting yourself out there more often, taking risks, and embracing the possibility of failure. You might also seek out supportive friends or mentors who can offer encouragement and perspective. Similarly, if your partner is afraid of abandonment, you might reassure her of your love and commitment, while also encouraging her to develop her own sense of independence and self-sufficiency. The Stoic philosopher Seneca famously wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." This quote highlights the tendency of a human mind to dwell on potential threats and negative outcomes, often exaggerating their likelihood and impact. By recognizing this tendency, we can begin to challenge our own irrational fears and to cultivate a more realistic and optimistic outlook. One technique that the Stoics used to combat fear was negative visualization. This involves consciously imagining the worst possible scenario, not to dwell on it or to become paralyzed by anxiety, but rather to prepare oneself mentally and emotionally for any eventuality. By confronting our fears in this way, we can desensitize ourselves to their power and develop a greater sense of resilience and self-confidence. For example, if you're afraid of losing your job, you might imagine what life would be like if you were to be fired. How would you support yourself and your family? What skills or resources would you need to develop? By thinking through these scenarios in advance, you can create a plan of action and reduce your anxiety about the unknown. You can also begin to appreciate the things you already have in your life, such as your health, your relationships, and your inner strength. Similarly, if you're afraid of being rejected by a woman you're interested in, you might imagine what it would be like to be turned down. How would you cope with the disappointment? What would you learn from the experience? By confronting this fear in advance, you can reduce its power over you and increase your willingness to take risks and pursue your desires. Chapter 5. The Push-Pull Dynamic. Mastering the Art of Attraction and Engagement. In the realm of relationships, the push-pull technique has gained notoriety as a method for creating attraction, intrigue, and emotional engagement. This technique involves alternating between displays of affection, attention, and interest, push, and periods of withdrawal, distance, or indifference, pull. When executed effectively, The push-pull dynamic can create a sense of uncertainty, excitement, and emotional tension, keeping the other person engaged and eager for your attention. However, it is crucial to approach this technique with caution and awareness, ensuring that it is used ethically and with the intention of fostering a genuine connection, rather than simply manipulating or controlling the other person. Let's talk about a method that's practically guaranteed to keep her hooked. The push-pull technique. It's simple, but wow, is it effective? Here's how it works. You give her attention, make her feel special, and then you pull back, you suddenly go quiet or distant. That constant back and forth creates emotional tension. And let me tell you, emotional tension is like a drug. It's addictive. She won't even realize it, but she'll keep coming back for more, desperate for your attention. At its core, the push-pull dynamic taps into the fundamental human desire for novelty, challenge, and validation. When someone consistently showers us with attention and affection, we may begin to take it for granted, losing interest or feeling suffocated. Conversely, when someone is consistently distant or indifferent, we may feel rejected, insecure, and unworthy. By alternating between these two extremes, the push-pull technique creates a dynamic of uncertainty and anticipation, keeping the other person on their toes and eager to earn your approval. Women crave excitement and unpredictability, even if it's emotionally confusing. That's why the push-pull technique works. It creates a cycle of emotional highs and lows that keeps her hooked. But here's where the Stoic perspective brings this whole thing in a sharper focus. The Stoic understood that emotions, especially ones like uncertainty or fear, can be powerful tools, but only if you remain in control of them. Consider the example of a man who initially expresses great interest in a woman, showering her with compliments, taking her on exciting dates, and making her feel special. After a few weeks or months, he begins to withdraw slightly, becoming less available, less communicative, or less outwardly affectionate. This sudden shift in behavior can create a sense of confusion and anxiety in the woman, leading her to question her own worth and to wonder what she did wrong. She may begin to try harder to win back his attention, going out of her way to impress him, to please him, or to make him feel loved. This creates a dynamic where she is constantly chasing his approval, while he maintains a position of power and control. However, it is important to note that this dynamic can easily become unhealthy or even abusive if it is not approached with caution and respect. If the man consistently withholds affection or uses the push-pull technique to intentionally manipulate or control the woman, it can lead to feelings of insecurity, anxiety, and emotional distress. It is crucial to ensure that the push-pull dynamic is used in a way that is playful, lighthearted, and ultimately aimed at fostering a genuine connection. To further illustrate the push-pull technique, it's helpful to examine real-life examples of relationships that have been characterized by this dynamic. One such example is the tumultuous relationship between Selena Gomez and Justin Bieber, a celebrity couple whose on-again, off-again romance captivated the attention of the world for several years. This is a great example of what this looks like in real life. The push was that Justin made Selena feel like the center of the universe with public displays of affection. The pull was getting involved with someone else or leaving her unsure of where they stood. Throughout their relationship, Gomez and Bieber engaged in a pattern of intense affection and public displays of commitment, followed by periods of separation, rumors of infidelity, and emotional turmoil. This constant back-and-forth dynamic created a sense of drama and intrigue, keeping the public, and perhaps even themselves, constantly guessing about the state of their relationship. While the details of their relationship are, of course, only known to them, many observers have noted that the push-pull dynamic appeared to be a key factor in maintaining the intensity and longevity of their romance. It is important to recognize that this type of dynamic is not necessarily healthy or sustainable in the long term. While it may create excitement and emotional engagement in the short term, it can also lead to feelings of insecurity, anxiety, and emotional exhaustion. A healthy and fulfilling relationship is built on trust, communication, and mutual respect, rather than on manipulative tactics or emotional games. Therefore, it is crucial to approach the push-pull technique with caution and awareness, ensuring that it is used ethically and with the intention of fostering a genuine connection, rather than simply manipulating or controlling the other person. Chapter 6. The Stoics' Measured Approach, Navigating Attraction with Awareness and Intent. The Stoic philosophers, with their emphasis on reason, virtue, and self-control, offer a valuable framework for understanding and navigating the complexities of attraction and engagement. They believe that emotions, while a natural part of the human experience, could also be a source of great suffering if not properly managed. Therefore, they advocated for the cultivation of apathy, not in the sense of indifference or apathy, but rather in the sense of freedom from emotional disturbance. In the context of attraction, this means learning to recognize and manage your own emotional responses, rather than being swept away by the emotions of others. It means cultivating a sense of self-sufficiency and independence, so that your happiness and well-being are not contingent on the approval or validation of another person. It also means approaching interactions with others with a calm and rational mindset, seeking to understand their perspective, rather than reacting impulsively or defensively. When you understand the psychology of push-pull, you're not playing mind games out of malice, you're playing with awareness. The Stoic concept of apathy, emotional freedom, allows you to remain calm, composed, and unaffected by the emotional chaos you're creating. This gives you a deeper sense of power. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca spoke about mastering your own desires and emotions to maintain inner peace. You're not letting her unpredictability or emotional tension dictate your mood. Instead, you are using the situation to remain steady and wise while she remains caught in the emotional current. This is how the Stoic approach to relationships differs from impulsive behavior. It's not about being cold or detached, but about understanding and controlling your emotional responses to navigate the highs and lows effectively. When applying the push-pull technique, the Stoic approach would emphasize the importance of maintaining inner equilibrium and avoiding the temptation to become overly invested in the outcome. This means being aware of your own emotions and motivations, and ensuring that your actions are guided by reason and virtue, rather than by desire or insecurity. It also means being respectful of the other person's autonomy and avoiding the temptation to manipulate or control them. Rather than viewing the push-pull technique as a means of winning someone over, the Stoic would see it as an opportunity to practice self-control, to cultivate inner strength, and to develop a deeper understanding of human nature. By remaining grounded in your own values and principles, you can navigate the complexities of attraction with greater clarity, integrity, and inner peace. The goal isn't to win someone over, but to cultivate inner strength and a deeper understanding of human nature. The Stoic approach to navigating attraction is about remaining grounded in your own values and principles. This ensures that you are acting with integrity and respect, fostering a healthy and fulfilling dynamic. The Stoic philosophers believe that true happiness and fulfillment could only be achieved by living in accordance with virtue. Virtue, for the Stoics, encompass qualities such as wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. By cultivating these virtues, individuals could live a life of purpose, meaning, and inner peace. In the context of attraction, this means approaching interactions with others with honesty, integrity, and respect. It means being true to yourself and avoiding the temptation to present a false or idealized version of yourself in order to win someone over. It also means treating others with fairness and compassion, regardless of their status, attractiveness, or perceived value. By living in accordance with virtue, you can attract others who share your values and create relationships that are built on trust, respect, and mutual admiration. This is how to keep things steady. Conclusion. This exploration into the dynamics of relationships, viewed through the lens of Stoic philosophy, reveals a path to navigate these complexities with greater awareness, control, and integrity. It's about understanding the psychological forces at play, not to manipulate or exploit, but to cultivate inner strength and build genuine connections based on mutual respect and authenticity. If all of this open your eyes, there's a path to mastering your emotions and understanding the balance of power, creating the dynamic where you are emotionally resilient and not emotionally dependent leads to true strength. The Stoics teach us that true power lies not in controlling others, but in mastering ourselves. By cultivating reason, virtue, and self-control, we can navigate the emotional storms of relationships with greater equanimity and grace. This doesn't mean suppressing our emotions, but rather understanding them, managing them, and choosing how to respond in a way that aligns with our values and goals. The Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius taught that a person's inner peace should not be disturbed by external events or people's reactions. They were advocates of the power of apathy, which is a state of being unaffected by emotions. This allows for a balance of strength. The techniques discussed in this essay, such as triggering emotional responses, employing the push-pull dynamic, challenging confidence, and cultivating mystery, can be powerful tools for shaping the dynamics of a relationship. However, these techniques must be approached with caution and awareness, ensuring that they are used ethically and with the intention of fostering a genuine connection. The key is to remain grounded in our own values and principles, to respect the autonomy of others, and to avoid the temptation to manipulate or control them. You have to remain emotionally resilient instead of being emotionally dependent.